my life is nothing is ever the way you think it is. Always live life with a question mark. Always question it. Always go to see, okay, is that really true? That belief system that I have. Can I punch holes in it?
Right. Welcome to today's podcast. I'm so excited because we're going to have a special podcast today. We're going to share our story, and I'm very excited to also listen to John's stories. Obviously, I know John for many years and I know his story, but I haven't heard it in such a sort of concise manner. And we wanted to give our audience the opportunity to get to know us. Why are we doing this? And also we encourage you to listen to any of our other podcasts because there is so much educational value in it. But today it's more an inspirational podcast. Hopefully, we can inspire you with our story and motivate you when, in case you are stuck, and see, what we've made of our lives and where we see it heading. So I'm very excited about it, and I will throw the ball to John. What is
Well,
your
I, I'm
story?
so I'm so looking forward to hearing yours as well. But as we drew straws and I got the short straw, I go first. So fair enough. That's so. I was born in New Zealand in 1960, a mere 6 days before you were born, which is also fascinating, folks, because when you meet somebody that's was exactly the same age as you, doing exactly the same sort of work, you go, "Wow, that's interesting." It would be interesting to see how our journeys um, compare. I was the second eldest of a family of four, grew up in a loving home. I often think that if my childhood was anything, it was too blessed. It was,
Oh,
it really was. It was like I grew up very loved, and actually in a way that made it hard for me to understand some of the limitations that come out of that upbringing. And I'm still digging some of them up. You know, 64, like I had never struggled, never had to struggle to any great degree, and that was a limiting factor because
that's in, that's
you
that's
haven't learned the
interesting.
tools. Yeah,
Right, right.
yeah.
So
It's
that's
not.
an interesting
It's
point for
yeah.
also for our listeners to understand. If it's always easy or nice, and I'm not saying you didn't have any challenges, then you're not equipping yourself with tools.
Well, there is an upside
But
to
I,
having a harder upbringing because you will tend to be more resilient and when times get tough. But and times did get tough in my family. I married early. I was only 22 when I got married, and we had our first child at 23. By 30, I had four children.
well done.
So Um, but also by 23, I had my first senior management job. So I left school. I joined Radio New Zealand. Well, I actually drove a truck for 6 months, and then I joined Radio New Zealand and went to three different locations in New Zealand and worked on radio stations for the next 3 years. And then being the discontent I was as a teenager, or late teenager, I figured I could do better in marketing, and I got through to that because I was in programming section of radio, which is about grabbing your listeners. That's marketing and research and whatnot. So I went into marketing, got married, had my first daughter. Life was very, very busy, and it remained busy, but I also, because I had that responsibility, and this is another interesting point in terms of like external pressures, when I got to 28, I had a girl working for me, a lady working for me. She turned 28 on exactly the same day. Turns out our mothers were in hospital together. So, and she says, hang on, hang on. I'm 28. I've got a university degree and I'm working as an assistant account manager. You're 28. You don't have a degree and you're the general manager. How, how did that work? Poor children. That's how that worked.
That's how that works. I mean, that is a very good point also, and well done. You don't always need the the university degree, you learn as you go through life.
Yeah, and I would also give great credit to my father and grandfather and mother and grandmother as well, who were accomplished people and taught me how to think and taught me about leadership and taught me how to lead and be the leader. So yeah, that's the good side of the upbringing, right? One of the problems that happened around age 30 is my oldest sister unfortunately contracted cancer, bowel cancer, and she was diagnosed in the February and was told that if it reoccurred, it would probably reoccur in the liver, and that would be then a matter of time. She wouldn't survive. And that happened. We were advised that cancer had reoccurred, and we this is just one of those sliding door moments in life where our fourth daughter, we were told that my wife was going to be induced at about half an hour before my sister rang me and told me that the cancer had reoccurred. So on that same day when my fourth daughter was born, we had such tragic news. Um, and yeah, it's just funny how life goes like that. She passed away in
Yes.
the October,
Mhm.
um, and her daughter's now a professional jazz singer in Berlin. So
Oh, so
she
cool.
learned German, Jacqueline, and she went over to Europe on a scholarship to do her master's degree in humanities, and then won Berlin's best busker, and uh, away she went with her career in music.
That's
So
amazing.
interesting, isn't it? It is
It
amazing, isn't
is.
it? Isn't it funny? You
But
know, another thing, little things that fall into place in life, you know? Um,
it is. Berlin is a very fascinating city. If you can make it there, that's pretty cool.
that's pretty
Yeah,
cool in terms of,
it's
of being
pretty
a singer,
cool.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But having said that, so then I got very cynical about life
Mm.
because, what's it all about? You know, if you can just be doing, and Debbie was a wonderful, gifted teacher and great mom, uh, aerobics instructor, was very careful about what she ate. She died of bowel cancer. Now, it turns out over the last few years, I have discovered because my younger sister said to me, John, you have to give your genes up to find out what the hell's going on here, that we have a family condition called familial polyposis, which is that you produce more polyps in your colon and whatnot than normal. Some people do it profoundly, but it is very likely that that's been the cause of bowel cancer through my family. So by now knowing that, all all the future generations get priority access to colonoscopies and all the rest of that
Yeah.
thing. So there we go. That's life. And we had a scare with my youngest daughter when she was 30. Um, so yeah, it's part of life. Anyhow, I decided that for me, I needed to make the biggest success as I could. And I had this idea in my head that I was going to do for my kids what my grandfather had done for me and have some money and be the banker of the family and all the rest of it. So I went hell for taffy and I got into business for myself and in my 30s and did pretty well for the first couple of years. And then things went wrong again. One of the funny things here is that you take you with you. Like the things that are wrong as an employee turned out that they were still wrong with me when I was an employer. Isn't that funny? Isn't that strange? Not.
Yeah, hence our
Yeah.
podcast. I mean, it is, and how life is teaching you, isn't it? It's equipping you with
Mm,
the tools and the challenges as hard as they are. Everyone has them. It's yeah.
mm.
And you were, I
So,
mean, that's such a young age where you already achieved all of that.
yeah. Yeah, so then things went a bit pear-shaped in my businesses, and I'm not going to bore the details. Just take responsibility over here. I wasn't fully aware, and I took too big a risks. I took too big a risks. Um, And in fact, that's my issue in terms of the relationship with courage. I tend to go to bravado, which is dangerous. So I had to learn that about myself, and I had to learn it the hard way. So essentially, I got wiped out in New Zealand. I found myself standing in a house that I no longer owned because I had lost it to the bank, if you want, and a decision to make to whether return to Auckland or come to Australia. And I came to Australia. And mainly we did that because we thought we could see more opportunity over here. And Australia is a marvelous, a fabulous place to live. If there's a
It
better
is, isn't it?
place than Australia in the world, people put it in the comments below because I've been to a lot of countries.
Yes, you
Once
have.
I got to once I got to Australia, um, my first wife and I sat down and said, "Well, one of us has to get a proper education here." And she said, "Well, you're the one who's got the CV. Off you go." So off I went to QUT and did a year of undergraduate, and then I realised that at that time I'd managed to get myself another general manager's job. I was competing against 16, 17-year-olds. Duh, that's not very good. So I wandered across the corridor to the master's program and said, "Here I am. Here's my Dean's Honours list for the undergraduate stuff. I don't have an undergraduate degree, but you can see I'm not a chump. And here's my CV. Got
For our
into
listeners,
QUTs."
for our listeners, John is very, very modest because he's really smart. It's not
Well, I
just,
was on EMBA in
he's really smart.
'01. Thank
Yeah.
you. Um, and then did a complete MBA in 18 months part-time, which specialized in leadership and strategic management. And that's the first hint of where I was going. At the same time, I'd managed to get myself in this general manager's job running one of the biggest printing organizations in Brisbane. And it had been losing money until I came along. And then I like to think that I had an influence on that and turned it around. We made a lot of money through some clever buying decisions. But most importantly, I re-engaged the staff. When I went there, they'd just sacked the previous general manager, they being the senior management. He had been sacked for sexual discrimination. So the men didn't like the women didn't like the men. The factory didn't like the office and the factory both hated the pre-press area. Everybody was at war with each other. Okay. And I 2 days before the Christmas holidays and had to deliver the Christmas speech. Right. That was awkward.
That
But we
was a
managed to
nice
rebuild the team.
situation
And
to
how
be
did we do?
landed in.
Well, that's right. But what do you do, Jacqueline? In that situation, you really, and I think, well, I know the senior management were glad they selected me because I knew how to lead. It's like, thanks, granddad, thanks, dad, thanks, mom, thanks, nan. I knew how to get people on side. So I tried to take away all the jagged points and show the team how interdependent they were and how much easier their life got when they acknowledged that. And instead of trying to find holes in the previous stage's work, that, oh, your instructions to the pre-press were rubbish, so they got it wrong, and then we printed 50,000 reminders that we got it wrong. That's the printing industry. You end up with a million reminders, you got it wrong. Um, and you got to bin them. But when you all of a sudden you go, hang on, I'm not clear on these instructions. So I'm going to go back out to the office and get clarity.
Yeah,
And only when I'm clear will I proceed.
yeah.
It sounds so basic and so simple. But again, this is where we humans, we tend to silo. We get fearful, we get angry, we get emotional. We feel that people are coming after us. I've had clients say to me, "I think there was a committee out there that's waking up every morning and deciding how to make my life difficult." And I felt that myself.
That's oh God, that's a nightmare dream. I hope I
But
don't dream about that. There's a
no,
committee
no,
out
I
there.
don't do. But if you, but there is this feeling, I used to call myself a crap magnet when I was out there because I figured it just seemed to me that if rubbish was going to happen, I was going to get it. What happened to me? Now that became more profound as I got into my 40s. I left that printing company and I joined an international paper trading company. And I was very, very successful in there. It was a wonderful job to begin with. I'd been in international trade earlier on. I skipped over that in the story because it was not really relevant, but I've been involved in importing and exporting since my first general manager's position and whatnot. And with my newly minted MBA, I got into a company called Roxel as the managing director of Australasia. And then proceeded to spend 10 years flying around the globe. Great for the first 4 or 5. It's an amazing job. People go, wow, can I carry your bags? And then it starts getting to be dislocating because I was away for, oh, let's say 6 months of the year, pretty much. Because even when I got back to Australia, I had to fly to Perth in New Zealand and Melbourne and fly all around, which is international travel. If I was in Europe and I was flying to Perth, I'd be somewhere in the middle of Russia or out over the Atlantic, right? And that's 5 hours, from Vienna, say. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is where it become really weird because you become disconnected from home because you're away so much. It becomes about the money. It becomes about the points. My family had a great time. They could fly anywhere they bloody liked and do it on points. So, um, yeah, and I became very disconnected from my family. And indeed, I remember one time coming home and there wasn't a my kids had their partners around and there wasn't a chair in the lounge for me to sit in. So I sat just on the other side in the kitchen on the other side of the return, and it was just so emblematic of how my life had become. They were over there, they were all having a good time,
Yeah.
and I was over here,
Yeah.
and that really started to play on my mind. And eventually, I had to call it with my then wife and said, I can't live like this anymore. I don't care. By that time, we had 4 houses, including an apartment on the 20th floor of South Bank Towers in Melbourne, overlooking the casino. We both drove Lexus cars. We were doing very nicely, thank you very much. And then John pulls the plug and goes, I can't live like this anymore. And I don't care about the cars. I don't care about the houses. The kids are all growing up. Why do I have to keep doing this? And my wife
This is,
said,
yeah.
well, you may not want to, but I do. I'm never going back to being poor again. And that was the deal we made. And she was telling the truth. It was the deal we made. I've got an article out there called the Peacock Syndrome on my profile on Engenesis. And that's what this is about. I sold her a bag of goods as a young man that I couldn't write the checks for once I got into my 40s. And well, I could, but how do I get out of this? How do I get out of this? And that's when I don't know, you get weird. That's when the life insurance policy came out of the cupboard. And I went, you know what? Here's how I get out of this. I'll just take myself out of the question. I'll suicide. The kids and Karen will get the money, and they'll be fine, and I just won't be here. And hell, I've lived a great life anyway. And that's sick thinking. Okay, I know that now.
Yes. And
But
the thing is, this is also, I find this really important to make a note of it also for our listeners. This is not uncommon. And this is
no, it's not.
also
The suicide rate for men in their mid
is
40s is the
is
second highest of all cohorts.
that's right. And I
There are
wanted to point out it's a male thing, you know. We sort of, yeah, we also want to respect that. And I've seen it for myself in the corporate world, the way men suffer, which is different. And yeah,
so
that's a lesson.
so my I went and saw uh, my insurance guy. I said, "This salary continuance insurance I've been paying all these years, does it cover me for mental illness?" And he says, "Yeah, sure does." So I went and saw psychiatrists and psychologists, and they said, "Yeah, you're in trouble. You're in the midst of burnout." And that's now an accepted mental term with the WHO, or in the, what is it, the Psychiatrist
Yeah.
Journal, essentially referring to a disconnect from reality, mainly the dissonance between who one really thinks they are and what they're doing. Where you're in, I
That is
was,
a very important distinction. This is not
mm,
something that's made up. This is real. These
mm,
breakdowns,
mm,
and the dissonance between how you live and who you are is causing
yeah.
that. And
And this
especially
is a
if
real
you are,
challenge.
oh, sorry, if
Yeah.
you are a high achiever, which you are, it may
Yeah.
come out even stronger.
Well, indeed. And this is one of the being the major drivers of me going into coaching and coming, we'll get to that in a minute. But um, I took the salary continuance insurance, and I bless Sean every day for his wisdom in forcing me to do this, because when you're young and dumb, and now I'm 64, I can look at a 40-year-old and say, you could be young and dumb at 40, because I probably was, but I had enough smarts to listen to the risk management skill of Sean, and he made sure that I had the right insurances, and that's what saved my butt. I mean, sure, it did cost me millions. I mean, the marriage didn't last. Um, then some other dumb decisions were made, and then I also lost a lot of earning capacity over that period of time, because these insurances never pay you what you were earning or what you could have earned if you had continued to climb. Not that I wanted to, and that was the big trick. You see, I knew the next step up for me would be to move to Vienna, and I had European citizenships because I'm an Irishman, plastic patty. Um, but I could go there, and but then what? What would be there for me? My family would be in Australia, right? And more work. Oh, and money. Well, money is a poor substitute for contentedness and happiness. And so this went into the basket of, none of us are singly dimensional. And I've always been quite a spiritual, thoughtful person and understanding how humans work. So I wondered how the hell I ended up where I ended up. And that became the inquiry. And then thinking, I don't want to go back to international trading. I don't want the pressures of sailing and all the rest of it. And I saw this job for a coaching company in Sydney. So I went online and did their profile, and within half an hour, I got a phone call from them saying, we're interested in you. I think you're a good candidate. Turns out I'd given them a surprisingly powerful profile. They thought, oh, this is somebody who can coach. Um, and God bless them, they got me into this category, and they put me in touch with a lot of the people that I'm still in touch with now. Um, but that wasn't to last. And then a couple of years later, Tanya uh, reached out to me and said, "Well, would you voice videos for me for this program I'm writing for a guide to live by, how to live by?" And I thought, okay, yeah, sure, I'll do that. Um,
I have plenty of experience to share.
Yeah, plenty of experience to share, but also, she just wanted my voice at that particular point in time. Yeah, fine, I have a voice, it's easy, right? Um, but then it turned out the person she was going to write and use as the editor and all the rest of it had gone off and done something else. And she said, "Well, I don't play very well on my own." I said, "Well, I'll help you. Let's do it together." Well, it was 10 years ago, and we've been working on the Andrea method. We named it the Andrea method because um, of the what it means, which is loosely translated, having the courage and the character to take yourself on in difficult circumstances. And by taking yourself on is to figure out how to do the right thing at the right time for the right reason. And I think to myself back when I was going through my burnout, wow, what if I knew about this then? It's a simple complex concept, but it's far from easy. And that's where coaching and supporting people through and that sort of thing that matters. So that's that's the abridged version of how I got here. What about you?
Well, I do. Before we jump away, don't think you just get off the hook so fast. What about you? Do you also want to share with our listeners what the when you had your breakdown, what the doctor said you will never be able to do again?
Oh yeah. You know, I was diagnosed by a forensic psychiatrist on behalf of the insurance company that said that in 2014 I was as well as I would be able to get, and I would not work again.
And look at you now. You know you've created a whole new career and calling. Really, you're following your calling, and you aligned what you're doing with who you are, and
Yeah,
and you've overcome it, which is just an
you know,
incredible thing to do.
one of the lovely things that I had the experience of, Jacqueline, is that I became a person that my mother didn't recognize because I was just about the money, just about the success. That was about it, right? Just driven to do that. But I had the situation where eventually I spent a lot of time with my mum because she ended up living in a granny flat attached to the house here, and she saw the man I had become, and she passed this phrase, which is I think every son wants to hear. She said, "I knew I'd get my boy back."
Oh, I think, I
You
mean,
know,
there
so
is
that's it,
so
and
much.
that's why I know I'm so aligned. You know,
Yeah. And there is so much learning in your story and the detours that we take in life. And I think, I hope someone who is younger and sets out onto their career, they see that the career is important for some people more than for others, and that's perfectly fine, but they shouldn't sell themselves out like this. You always want to be connected to who you are, and this is really what I want to do.
Mm.
But you've done an incredible journey with having the children so early, having these responsibilities so early, being a manager or general manager, then studying, and then traveling the world like mad, and coming out from a
It's
breakdown.
tiring. I feel tired hearing about it.
Yeah, it's like, oh, coming out, and and coming out from it, and now having a whole new outlook and on life, a
Mm.
whole new, occupy. Well, it's not an occupation, it is a calling. People in
Yeah.
our age, you can easily retire, but you're not, because you have this dedication, you want to be useful, and you have lots to pass on. And that also takes courage. I'm
Well,
getting,
this opportunity to help somebody to
yeah,
understand, help them to understand, to not be what we describe, and this is going to be sound a bit jargonish, but to not be captive to what they think. Just because you think something, just because a thought comes into your mind, doesn't mean that it's yours. It doesn't
yeah,
mean that it's correct. Um, we need to that would be reacting. Reacting
yeah,
means just doing what we did in the past. What humans need to understand, their real power lies in responding and getting that gap, getting that space, and understanding that they're not fixed. They're not stuck in one mindset, that you are infinitely flexible. And I think that's why I've managed to come back from literally nearly the dead, um, and come back and
yeah,
create a whole new
yeah.
new life. And I'm no saint. I'm so far away from a saint, it's ridiculous, right? I'm definitely in the sinner department. But what I do have is a great love of humanity. And if I can help one human not go down this line, and not destroy their lives because they understand the concept of integration. It's not a matter of balance, work and, because you just try and balance this, it's just not that easy. If it's integrated and you are who you say you are and you are who you say you are at work as you are at home, then your life gets a whole lot better.
Yeah.
But as soon as you have two different people, oh, I'm a different person at home, that's a big red flag for me.
Yeah, and I think there is so much in your story and what you can pass on to people, and people are looking for it. Um, Younger people are looking for it, and even the people 40 and above. They sometimes they are stuck. They are in your situation where they have you know ha are in the middle of their career, and they realize maybe um, well, the career is fine, but maybe not like this. Maybe they need to shift a little bit, or it doesn't always
Yeah,
mean a major change. And you've been there and you can help them to do it. It's all possible.
it's all possible. And, I'm not Robinson Crusoe. It's having a successful career and being very unhappy. That's not
And
uncommon, unfortunately.
no, it's not uncommon. And yeah, and I see, who you've become going through this, this challenge, this health challenge, and you've beaten the odds.
Well,
That's
that's true.
another
Yeah,
thing to learn.
while we're at it, in the last 2 years, I've had a radical prostatectomy and a double knee replacement. So, and I'm
Yeah,
still
you've
happy.
got all patched together, ready for the next 20 years.
Well, this is exactly it. And then, I think that one of the things that you can do, and particularly men are particularly bad at it, they go, "Oh, I'm tired," because you do get tired when you're in your 60s. Well,
Mm,
fair enough. Um, but so therefore, I'm going to retire. But then, what purpose have you?
yeah,
What purpose have
and
you? Well, I have a great purpose. I have a great purpose because, my vision is to live in a world of enlightened citizens and leaders. Probably not going to happen in this lifetime. But my mission, because I can undertake this mission, is to have the conversations and coach others to have the conversations to ensure that everybody sees the light, sees what's possible, and do that, as many people as possible. So as I start coaxing the world along that way, hey, there is a better way. We don't have to be fearful. We don't have to be divided. I think one of the worst things we do in the world at the moment is we divide everybody into little categories. I heard the other day there are something like 143 genders. Really?
that's
I
almost
mean,
that is, it's also
and this
unmanageable.
idea
I mean,
that
pointless.
no, and what matters, what doesn't matter in context of life anyway? Who cares? Do whatever you like. Just, as long as it's not compulsory, I'm fine.
That's
I
right.
just think we can be kind to each other. Kindness, caring, intelligence, education, these are the things that matter, not gender. And I know that the world's not in a great place, but it's still here. And any woman that says, "Oh, well, look, men got us here," has been ignoring that the hand that rocks the cradle rules the world. They've had a part in it. And it didn't work for men to throw women out the door and say, no, no, we'll just have men in.
It doesn't.
That
Yeah,
didn't work. Doesn't work. So these are the things that I keep myself busy and it gives me life and love and happiness and contentedness.
exactly.
And hopefully enough people like it and then they want the help and they say, well, yeah, there's real value in that. And because that's one of the traps here in coaching is I'd give this away, but I need to know that my coachee is committed.
That's right.
And I need to pay for my bread and bickies. What's
That's
wrong?
that's
This is my
that's right.
expertise.
And you have to have something at stake
Hmm,
to make the change because it's very uncomfortable. I mean, life
that's
will
right.
throw it at you anyway if you're avoiding certain sort of certain pathways or answers. If you're avoiding it, life will throw it into your path anyway. and
Mm.
will keep confronting you until you've got it.
That's right. You
Yeah,
take you with you. You until you deal with you, wherever you go, all you're doing is changing the scenery
it's
because you go with you.
that's
And I
right.
trust me, I went to Chicago to sort my shit out. And I took me over there too. And that was not successful. Why? Because I had to come back and confront who I was. I had to get off that cycle and actually take the time. When I first went through burnout and I got the accelerated continuation, I spent a lot of time in the dog park, walking up and down the dog park, working it out, sometimes chanting, sometimes just playing with the dog, just allowing life to happen around me until I felt able to come back and just start unpicking what had happened
Yeah,
and deciding, well, what about the future? And and here I am. Here I
yeah.
am, and I still don't know what the future is. Not much bothered though, because I'm in the now.
It
This
doesn't.
is this is
Yeah,
what matters right now.
right now. Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
You have, and and I think your story will give people a lot of hope and encouragement that things can turn around. Especially if the one or the other is going through hardship and challenging times. It's not going to
Hmm.
stay like this, and you can mold your life more to your likings. It's not going to be everything the way you want it. In and the thing is,
But
we
then
have
that's only
limited
just your opinion.
imagination. Yeah, it's limited imagination. The universe will
Hmm.
give you things that you wouldn't think of.
Exactly.
Exactly. And
Exactly.
that's why you need to be, you want to be a bit more open because we have limited brains. We can only think so much, and the universe thinks
Hmm.
like this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think,
It's enormous. This is a great point you make, Jacqueline, because the universe is infinite, infinitely powerful, infinitely, you know, and we talked about this here. You're the physics person here. Tell me, how much of the universe is made up of dark matter?
well, the physicists say 94% dark energy and dark matter.
And we don't know anything about dark energy and dark matter, do we, as humans? We just know it exists, right?
And it may
So, in
even be
short,
more.
we as humans only explore a universe that is something like 6% of the universe, and it's hilarious. And we're only here for 70,
Exactly.
80 years, and we have this idea that we know. No, relax, people. Monitor yourself, connect to the universe, connect to your purpose. You're here for a reason because statistically, no human should exist. Yet we do. Here we are. Let's do the best with it that we can. And that's where I've come to. I could go and play golf and go fishing. And goodness me, I feel like doing that. And I'll be doing more of that. I can promise you over the next few years, I will be doing more of that for sure. Um, maybe I'll be able to go to we'll coach on the golf course. You guys are all paying my golf fees. Come golfing with John,
Look,
18 holes.
I look, that is a great idea. Look, I mean it. Coaching on the golf course. I mean, that's a great. You take your coachees to the golf course and every, pothole or whatever it's called. I don't play golf. Is a conversation topic. I mean, I think that is an amazing business idea, and that people would really enjoy. Why, I mean, okay, so I think, I mean, look, I
We'll go
actually
off on that.
100% mean it. Think about the golf course coaching trip,
And this is
and
the point. The universe brings things out, doesn't it? Look at
that's
that.
right. Who would have
That was
thought
the universe at work right then.
coaching coaching on the golf course,
Yeah.
and it's not about golf. I mean, just so they get an
No.
idea. But I think, yeah, I think that's a it's a really good moment to come to the end of this podcast. I really enjoyed, getting to hear your complete journey. I knew a lot of it, but not sort of in one trail. And I really hope that the listeners also get to see something.
And the next one is your turn. So that was John's story. Tune in next week for Jacqueline's story.
That's right. That's right. Next week will be my story. Great. Well, have a good time, listeners. Subscribe and like. Connect with us. If you have questions, put them in the comment box. We, love to hear from you. And yeah, until next
And
time.
share, 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 share.
Yeah.
And that's not just thank you in Chinese. That means share as in S-H-A-R-E.
Right, right. Okay,
All right.
good.
See you next
Bye.
time.
Bye.